Hello, everyone who's with me so far. I'm just going to wait and a few more people hopefully be joining as we turn 7:30. Hope you've all got your pens and paper ready to jot down lots of notes. I hope there's going to be lots of great value in this today. So, yeah, get ready to scribble. I'm going to record this, so you are welcome to have this as a CPD thing for you once this has been completed. So I will email it all out to everybody, and you'll be able to watch it back at your leisure. So I hope you're all ready for this. I'm not necessarily good for keeping to time, so I'm going to try and keep this to half an hour. But if at any point you want to ask me some questions, please do. I'm going to be doing some screen sharing, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to see your chat, but please, if I haven't answered questions, if you have questions that you want answering, please, don't leave without getting your questions answered. All right, it's important for me that I know you're happy and you've got some of your questions answered. You may well have a few. And I don't know whether I have met any of you before. If I have, and I forgot your name, apologies. If I haven't, then I will be introducing myself, and I would love to know at some point where you are, where you're all working, a bit about you. I love finding out more about our profession and the people in our profession because we are so diverse. Right, let me turn that light off. I have a poltergeist in here tonight. Let me turn that off because that would just be annoying. Well, let's get started. So I hope you've got pen and paper. I hope you've got your minds in order. I know it's 7:30 on a Thursday night. You've probably had a really, really busy day, but I am delighted and honoured that you are here and that you have given up your most valuable resource, which is your time, to come and spend the next 30 minutes with me. I appreciate you if you're watching it live with me tonight. I know a lot of people can't make it live, so thank you very much if you're watching on catch-up. I hope you're going to get loads of value from this because I want to make this masterclass jam-packed full of value for you. So let me get started. I'm going to do some screen sharing. Please bear with me. I am not necessarily the cleverest at doing this. So let me share that. Where have you gone? Bear with me while I get this sharing. Can everyone see my screen now? I hope you can. Still see me in the corner?
Yes.
So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Liz Curfey. I am a practicing osteopath. I have been in practice for coming up to 24 years. I live in Cheshire, Macclesfield in Cheshire. And I, as well as being an osteopath, I am an NLP master practitioner. I'm a personal development coach, and I'm an author. And I have been an associate. I have been a sole practitioner, and most recently, a multidisciplinary practice owner. So now, as well as doing my working as an osteopath, I'm focusing quite a lot on mentoring and coaching and personal development. So why am I doing this masterclass? Because I have been very, very blessed to have a very successful career, but I haven't done it alone. I've been taught by, I've learnt from, I have practiced with some of the most well-known, well-respected, highly experienced osteopaths in our profession. And so over my years in practice, I've picked up so much information from them that I want to share with you. So as I become one of the older, as in experienced osteopaths in my profession, I want to give back to my profession. I want to help those who are coming up through, to help you develop your successful practice, however that looks like for you, to learn how you can build a raving fan patient base, and for you to live a fulfilled and happy life as an osteopath. Now, I would say, and I don't know how long some of you have been in practice for, being an osteopath is not always easy, is it? It takes commitment, it takes resilience, it takes dedication, and it takes what we're known as a growth mindset. So always wanting to learn more. And a sprinkle of osteopathic magic, as I call it. Now, I can't teach you that bit. That magic is your own. It's your own individual magic. And it's different from mine. It's different from your friends. And it's different from your colleagues. Your own magic will make your success. But these 5 really important tips that I'm going to share with you today will help you develop that magic. So let's get started. So these are the 5 very simple steps that I recommend you make as your foundation. If you get these right and you continue to do these throughout your career, you will be successful. You may need to change them. You may need to adapt them up a little bit. But if these become your firm foundation on which you build your career, you will be able to be successful. So over my years in practice, I've tried and tested many different ways to ensure that my patients get the best possible experience, that I build a solid business. And that's one of the first things that I want you to have a think about, is that you are a business. This was actually, for me, one of the hardest things that I had to get my head around when I qualified, because I was all for the osteopathy. And a lot of unis nowadays, they teach very much, the hands-on, the things to do, the things not to do, so you can become a safe practitioner. But they don't necessarily teach you about what it's actually like out in the real world to be an osteopath. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today. So we're going to talk about rapport, which is how to create it and how to keep it with your patients. What do your patients really need? What do they need from you in their, not just your hands-on, but what do they need? Your boundaries, and why are boundaries so important for us in practice? I'm going to talk about consistency. So being consistent in everything that you do. And then also talking about your own value and your own worth and understanding what that means for you. So if we start with rapport, do you know what I mean when I talk about rapport? So rapport is all about building trust between you and your patient. It's, as it says on the slide, it's a sense of connection, acceptance, and openness between people, which allows communication to happen on a far more subtle level. It is the ability to enter someone else's world, to make them feel that you understand them, and there's a strong connection between the two of you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything in their world. It doesn't mean that you have to even like them, but it means that they have to feel you understand them. And in any therapeutic environment, that is absolutely key. And how can you develop this? So as I put at the bottom there are 5 really important things that you can match to help get patient rapport. So the first thing that you want to think about is posture. Now, I'm sure you've all had those patients who've sat down in your consultation room and their arms are folded and their legs are crossed and they have that look on their face of being quite shut down. That's quite a protective posture. And we don't want to show that type of posture to our patients. We want to have a much more open posture. So if you're finding that someone has presented like that, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get them to open up. And why do we want them to open up? So that we can get all the golden nuggets of information out of them to make our correct diagnosis and then our treatment. I mean, we really need to know, don't we, what's been happening to that person. So your posture is really important. If you notice that once the patient starts to relax, they uncross their arms a bit or they unfold their legs a bit, if you mirror how they are, so you can either do it exactly as they are. So if they're sat like that, you can sit like that. If they're sat at an angle, you can mirror them. That it's an unconscious, subconscious body language that you're posturing as they are. So that's known as mirroring. Facial expression. So when I say facial expression, I don't mean you have to do exactly what they're doing. But if they are quite an animated person, same with the breathing, if they're quite animated, if their face is very expressionful, try and be a little bit like them. Not copy them so it looks silly, but try and be a little bit more like that. Because again, they feel more of a connection with you if they see themselves reflected back in you. Breathing, voice. Are they breathing very quickly? I know I'm talking quite quickly at the moment. So if you were talking to me, you might just want to speed yourself up a little bit. If you have a particularly high voice and they have a particularly low voice, you might want to just drop your tone just a little bit. Again, not so that it sounds ridiculous, but just so that they feel you and them have a bit more of a connection. And then the last one is words. So what words are you using or what words rather are they using to describe how they're feeling? So in NLP, we talk about people being visual communicators, or they will be kinesthetic, which is feeling. So if someone is a visual, they'll say things like, do you see what I mean? Or if they're kinesthetic, if they're feeling, they might describe the pain as, it feels like a red hot poker going down my leg. So listen to their language. If you can, jot down the type of language that they use. Do you hear them using more visual expressions, or do you hear them using more kinesthetic, more touchy-feely, descriptive patterns? And if you can build some of that back in, or even just repeat that language back to them, again, they start to feel that you are matching them, that you are mirroring them, and that you're understanding what they're saying. So matching and mirroring are two really important body language skills which you need to develop in order to get that all-important rapport between you and your patient. And you will know when you've got it. You've probably already experienced it in practice. It's when you start to really know and feel, yeah, that patient is opening up now. That patient is really telling me stuff, is really giving me all the information that I need. If you're finding it's a difficult consultation and the rapport's not going as well as you like it to, have a think back over these 5 things. If you need to, write these down and have them written somewhere on your desk where you're taking the consultation. And think about, okay, what's their posture when they first sit down? How are they breathing? What's their tone of voice like? If they are a sort of person who speaks like this and takes their time to talk to you, and you're all bubbling like this, they're not going to feel that connection. See how that would affect it. So try and think about, if you don't feel you've got that connection in your consultation, think about one of these 5 things that you can do to see what a difference it makes. The next time the patient comes in, if you've written down the things that you remembered from that consultation, you do it automatically. You'll be straight in there. They'll really feel you. Being listened to, being cared for, and being understood. Now, any research that you read shows that the words patients use to describe the important ingredients of a really good therapeutic relationship are things like the practitioner was keenly interested, that they were a concerned listener, they were someone who speaks my language. So this sense of trust which develops between the practitioner and the patient grows when they get this sense that they're being understood. They and the other person are speaking the same language. So if you think about it with your friends or with an influential person that you trust, you would say to yourself, oh, my friends get me. They just get me. They get my quirks. And that's what you want your patients to feel. Your patients want to feel that you get them. And people tend to believe that their view of the world, the way that they operate in the world, is the right one. So that understanding is how they're working, how they're thinking. It's crucial. It's that crucial bridge between our model of the world and theirs. So how do we do this? How do we make them feel listened to, cared for, and understood? So the 80-20 rule, which is a great one. The 80-20 rule is that for 80% of the time, you are looking at your patients. You're not staring at them, but you're looking at them. And then the other 20% of the time, you're looking somewhere else, you're writing your notes, whatever. So what you don't want to do is for them to feel that you are interrogating them by looking at them the whole time. But again, if you're only looking at 50% of the time, they don't feel that you're getting them. Have you ever been to the doctors and they're sat there and you're sat here and they're, so how are you today, Miss Curfew? How are things going for you? And they're not actually looking at you. You don't feel that connection, do you? So the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time you're looking at them, 20% of the time you're looking elsewhere. Asking questions in the right way. Now, you've probably covered all this at college. So it hopefully will just be a bit of a reminder for you. So again, as I said on the previous slide, think about the type of language that your patient uses to communicate with you, but ask in a similar way. Don't bombard them with too much clever medical language because they won't understand it. And again, they won't feel like you're getting them, you're understanding them. Being aware of your own body language, that's again really important, because if you are sat there quite closed up and not really being in that open posture, they're going to feel that. So be mindful of your own body language. Be aware of how you're sitting. What does your posture say about you? What subconscious messages are you sending out to your patients by your body language? And never judging. Now, I had a really interesting patient in recently who I'm going to tell you a little quick story about. So he's late 20s, early 30s. He's an accountant, office worker, works from home, and he'd been getting, unsurprisingly, neck and shoulder dorsal pain. And so I'd been treating him for a couple of times, and I thought we were getting on fairly well. And during the treatment, I asked him to turn over. So he turns over, and as he turns, a cigarette lighter falls out of his pocket onto the floor. So I pick up the cigarette lighter and I said, how much do you smoke? To which he replies, I don't really smoke cigarettes, Liz. I smoke weed. I went, oh, right, okay. And he went, yeah, but, and I know you're going to judge me on that. Which I have to say, I was slightly taken aback by. And I went, okay, what makes you think I'm judging you? Thinking, am I judging him in my body language? Am I doing something subconsciously to make him think, oh my goodness, what a stupid thing to do? He said, I can just tell you're judging me. So I had to be quite quick on my feet here, thinking about what to say without completely destroying this therapeutic relationship that I hoped we'd managed to create. So I said to him, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't ever judge anybody. I just advise my patients on the best way for them to live their lives. They can take my advice or not, but I wouldn't ever say that I would judge my patients. And then I quickly moved on with the treatment. But it did make me realise we don't always know what our own subconscious body language is doing. And we have to be quite mindful of not judging. So I suspect it was him. I suspect it was his own belief that everybody judges him for smoking weed. So be it. I have seen him since, and the therapeutic relationship is still fine. But it is one of those times when I did think, right, what am I doing? How am I presenting myself? And I had to think, as I say, quite quickly on my feet for that one. So that's listened to, being cared for, and being understood. Now, boundaries. These are so important to get into place right from the get-go in your osteopathic life. And I'm going to hold my hand up, and I'm going to be very honest with you. And I'm going to admit that for many, many years, my boundaries were pretty much non-existent, which actually didn't do me any favors. I would see people in my lunch hour. I would have 10 minutes to gobble my sandwich down. I would squeeze someone in at the end of the day. I might do an extra patient early in the morning on a Saturday. I really didn't have any boundaries as to what my patients were going to, how my patients were going to be able to see me. And what do I mean by a boundary? So a boundary, it's like a non-negotiable something that you absolutely won't do. As it says on the screen, it's an imaginary line between what you will and what you won't allow in your life. So it could be one of your boundaries is you don't start work before 8 o'clock ever, because it's just not right for you, or you don't finish work any later than 5 o'clock on a Thursday because that's football with your mates, or you don't work on a Sunday because that's your religion. Whatever it is, you will probably have some boundaries already in place already. But what I wanted to do with you tonight, if you will allow me, is just a really quick 2 or 3 minute exercise just to make you aware of maybe where your boundaries are or are not, if you're anything like me. And if this is something that you want to think about deeper, there's a really great book. You probably can't see that. I'll put the link in the chat. It's called Boundaries: How to Draw the Line in Your Head and Your Heart. And it's a really useful book for thinking about where your boundaries are. So if you will just indulge me, I would love to do this really, really simple exercise from it with you. So what I'm going to get you to try and do is visualize what boundaries you think you might have in place at the moment. Okay, so I want you to sit back in your chair, and I want you to close your eyes and just take in a few deep breaths and just settle yourself and just notice your breathing throughout this exercise. And now I want you to picture yourself stood in a large field. It's a beautiful sunny day with blue sky, birds singing, and lush green grass underfoot. Take a good look around your field and notice where you are in the field. And as you stand there, imagine that a boundary appears around you. What does it look like? What's it made of? How wide is it? How tall is it? Is it the same all the way around? Are there doors or windows? And how do you feel within your boundary? Keep thinking about your breathing and just focus on that boundary that has appeared around you. Now imagine that your field is becoming populated first with your family, then your friends, then your work colleagues, and finally everyone in your life, some closer, some maybe further away. The boundary stays in place, but some may be within it and some might be outside. And note again how you feel inside your boundary. Who is near to you and who is far away? And then just come back into the room, as they say, and open your eyes. And just think for a minute, what was your boundary like? When I first did this exercise, everyone was here. Everyone was right in front of me, and I didn't have any boundaries in place. And the reason why I say boundaries are so important is because if we don't have these boundaries in place, we can very, very easily lead to burnout, because we don't know, people don't know where the boundaries are because we don't have them in place. And you will do what I do, which is, working all hours and not having anything in place and not having any time for you, your family. So thinking about where your boundaries are, thinking about what are your non-negotiables are going to be super important if you're going to have a successful and a prolonged career, which I hope you will all have. So after today, just maybe go back and revisit that. And it's actually, That's a super useful exercise to give to your patients or to talk through with your patients, because we all have those patients, don't we, who are people pleasers and they've been doing everything for everybody else and they're not getting any better because they're just so exhausted, and someone else is asking them to do something and they don't have any boundaries in place. So knowing what a boundary feels like for us, then we can it's a great way to help our patients, knowing and just explaining to them where their boundaries are. So have a little think about that one once we finish today. Consistency. 2 really important things to keep consistent in your practice. And number 1, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. This links very nicely into boundaries, and I'm going to explain why. So, for example, this is one thing that I talk to all my private clients about, because it's so important that we do this. You see your patient and you've said to them, I really need to give you some exercises to do, because by doing some exercises, by strengthening whatever muscle, it's really going to help. And you say to them, I'll get you those exercises by the end of today. Then the end of the day comes and you've had to squeeze in an extra patient. You shouldn't have any boundaries in place. You have to leave early because something's happened at home. You forget to do the exercises, and you get an annoyed email the next day from the patient going, well, where are my exercises, Liz? You told me you were going to send me those exercises by the end of the day. And then you feel bad because you've let your patient down. So rather than saying, I'm going to give you the exercises by the end of the day, give yourself a bit of grace and say, I'll get those exercises out to you in the next couple of days. If you don't hear anything from me, please email me, because sometimes they end up in people's junk, or sometimes I do overlook them, I'll be honest. That gives yourself a couple of days. If you get it done that day, if you get it done the day after, that's a win-win for you because you've got it out to them sooner. But it just gives you a bit of extra time because you said you were going to do it, you've told them when it's going to be, and you can work within that time frame. And that goes for GP letters or other stuff that you might want to send out to your patients. Don't make your boundary so tight. Don't make your lines so tight that you're sort of forced to do too much too quickly. And the importance of the patient journey and the experience. Now, can you remember the first time you went to a hair salon that you really liked, or you went to have your beard trimmed, a great new salon, and you went for the first time and it made you feel really, really special? You're greeted at the door by someone really friendly and welcoming. They hand you a lovely cup of coffee, a cup of tea with a lovely biscuit. You see that everywhere is clean and neat and tidy, and you have a really, really great experience. You get on really well with the stylist, with your beard trimmer, and you leave feeling really happy. And the next time you need your haircut, you need your beard trimmed, you go to the same place. And it's the same experience. It's lovely, it's clean, it's fresh, you're welcomed again, you're made to feel really special. You start to tell everyone about this great salon that you've been to, or beard trimming place you've been to. Now, the third time you go, things aren't quite the same. You're not greeted in quite the same way as you were. You're not given a lovely cup of coffee, just given a lukewarm glass of water. No biscuit this time. Sofa's beginning to look a little bit dirty. Things aren't quite as clean and neat as they were before. Your stylist looks a little bit disinterested in you, and you're not quite as happy with what they do for you. And the fourth time you go, well, you know, I'll go again just to see, maybe they were just having an off day, and it's really no better. You just don't feel that you're welcome. You just don't feel the place is cared for. Would you go back again, or would you look for somewhere else? And think about this from the perspective of your patient. How is their experience every time they come to see you? Now, I know it's difficult if you are an associate in a practice. You can make the best for your patient. So is the practice clean and tidy? Are the dead flowers in the pot outside? The number of practices I've been to where the plants outside are dead. You know, even as an associate, you can clear those away. Does the room smell clean, fresh? Are the towels clean and fresh? Are you clean and fresh? Have you brushed your hair? Have you got a nice clinic coat on? Now, you may laugh when I say that, but I know places where I've been to and the practitioner's shoes are muddy and their clinic coat looks like it's been pulled out of the laundry basket that morning. And you might not think these things matter, but they really do, because patients notice these things. The number of times patients said to me, "Oh, I like your shoes, Liz." I didn't even know they'd noticed. So patients notice these things. And every time the patient comes in, they want to get that same great experience. How easy is it for them to book in with you online? What's the online system like? I looked at a online booking system for a very large multidisciplinary practice recently, and it was so confusing. I didn't know who I needed to see. I wouldn't have known where to go, which practitioner to go with. I couldn't find their phone number and I couldn't find their address. So you really need to make all this part of the patient journey really simple, because it doesn't matter how great you are as an osteopath. If the patients aren't coming to see you, if they don't know how to find you, then you're not going to be able to build your list up. What sort of response do they get when they phone? Hopefully, if you work at a practice that has a receptionist, the receptionists have been well trained. But if it's just you, how do they first come across you? What's your answer machine like? Do you have a VA that answers for you? Or do you leave a lovely message saying, "I'm really busy in clinic, I'll phone you back later"? That patient journey is really, really important. So think about their patient journey all the way through. Keep it consistent, because that's what people like. And now for the hard truth one. Your worth and your values. Believing you are capable and worthy of the work you do is super important, because it doesn't matter how amazing an osteopath you are, how many prone CDHVTs you can get. I'm not very good at those. If you don't believe your worth, if you don't believe you're worthy of having patients, if you don't believe in your skill set, then it's going to be very hard for you to succeed. Everyone at some point lacks confidence. But if you continue to tell yourself you're not a confident person, then you will continue not to be confident. Then, of course, you come to one of my confidence masterclasses, and it will be brimming with confidence after that. Everyone at some point feels like an imposter. That's actually quite normal, and I would be concerned if at some point you didn't feel like an imposter, because then you would be verging on the arrogant side, and we certainly don't want arrogance in practice. But imposter syndrome is really just fear. It's fear that you're not good enough because you haven't yet got the confidence. And if you've seen my imposter syndrome workshops that I've done, I talk a lot about how to get over imposter syndrome. Because if you keep believing that you're not good enough, you keep living as a feeling as an imposter, you're actually going to live a very unfulfilled career, and that's going to mean you're not reaching your full potential. And that's a shame for your patients. And self-sabotage. So self-sabotage is the act of preventing yourself from succeeding at whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whether that's consciously or unconsciously. So it can be negative self-talk, it can be procrastination, it can be failing to follow up on commitments to yourself, to your patients, to your family. It usually stems from our own fears and insecurities, and it causes self-doubt. And it often, again, goes back to these core beliefs that we have about ourselves. If we don't think we're worthy of success, then we won't be successful. If we don't think we're worthy of being loved, then our relationships will falter. If that's something that you're really struggling with, as an NLP practitioner, please come and talk to me about that. I've done a lot of personal development work on my own lack of confidence, my own ability to self-sabotage, and my own imposter syndrome. So don't ever feel that you are alone in that and you are the only one. I can pretty much guarantee most people in our profession suffer from all of these at some point. There are a few who don't, but most of us do. And it's really important that we smash those out, we get rid of those, so that you can really, really live and work as a successful osteopath. And so the secret sauce, if there is one, is that to do all 5 of these consistently every day in practice, and do them with passion, do them with love, and do them with a heart of service. If you're lacking in confidence, borrow my belief in you, because I know what amazing osteopaths we all are. You're incredibly well educated, very professional. You have an amazing skill set. Never forget the amazing skill set that we have. And you have an ability to change the lives of people with your skill. What would happen if you no longer went into practice feeling anxious, worried about your list, either because it's so quiet that you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, or because you're so busy that you're going to burn yourself out? And that's where your boundaries come in. So you need to believe in yourself, in your abilities, in your own uniqueness. Develop your own practice style. And that's really the topping on all of this, is don't feel you have to practice the same way that you were taught at university. Learn your own techniques, learn your own style. As we've all been told, Andrew Taylor Still didn't teach technique. So the techniques that you've learned have been developed by those osteopaths who've gone before. Look at Laurie Hartman. He's developed his own style. Maybe you one day will be the next Laurie Hartman. Who knows? So if you've enjoyed this and you want to know more, then I have developed for you a self-directed online learning course where we go into this a lot deeper. And it's called How to Survive and Thrive as a Newly Qualified Osteopath, which goes along with my book, which some of you may have. And if you haven't, I'll send you the link for that. So particularly if you are recently qualified, or you work on your own, or even if you work in a practice as an associate with a principal, but sometimes principals aren't always supportive, or they might not have time. We all need support. We don't have to do osteopathy on our own. It's important to have someone in your corner. It's important to have a mentor, a coach, a guide. I have a coach. In fact, I have two, because I know how important it is for someone to work with me, to give me their experience. I've designed a course which, if I'm honest, I wish I'd had 23 years ago when I first qualified. So it's an online course which takes you step by step at your own pace through 5 modules, going deeper into what we've discussed today. It gives you all the stuff about being an osteopath that they don't teach you in uni. As I said before, the unis do an amazing job at making you amazing osteopaths. You know, you're safe, what to do, what not to do, but they give you very little actual practice advice. And it's that I in particular struggled with 23 years ago. And this course provides that for you. So working alongside with my book, which you receive a copy of when you sign up to the course, will guide you. So by the end of the course, you'll know really in more detail how to get that rapport that you so need with your patients, how to deal with challenging situations, challenging patients. We've only just scratched the surface today of what you'll be able to do if you follow through my course. So wouldn't you like to know how to deal with challenging patients? Wouldn't you like to have a blueprint to follow when a challenging or difficult situation arrives? That's what you'll learn. And if I sound passionate about it, it's because I am. And if I sound like I want you to take part in it, it's because I do, because I really wish somebody had done this for me 23 years ago. And imagine if you started tomorrow. There's 5 modules. I think there's a 6th one I've thrown in as a bonus. So in 6 days' time, your practice could be very, very different than it is now. And because you have honoured me by coming here today, I've put it as a special offer. It's £80 off the course, but only until Sunday. So you'll only be able to access that until Sunday. But you now have a lot of knowledge, but knowledge is potential power. And what you need to do is act on that. It will involve you stepping a bit out of your comfort zone, but that's the only way that you grow. And I honestly believe you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have honoured me by staying with me for half an hour to hear me talk about this if you didn't have a growth mindset, if you didn't want to achieve more. And I am so excited that you want to do that, because you will make a difference within your community. And if you put the work in with your determination and my experience to guide you, you'll be able to make a really big difference to how you practice. These 5 simple steps are just the start. So, as Warren Buffett said, you know who Warren Buffett is, one of the best investment guys on the planet. He said the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. You've invested a lot to get this far within your osteopathic career. Invest some more of your time with me to guide you. Now, some of you might want to buy this straight away. Some of you might want to ask me some questions and think about it. That's absolutely fine. But it is out, the reduced price is only until Sunday. And then, as I say, if you get on with it and you started the module straight away, imagine what a different place you'll be in a week's time. And that's my presentation for tonight. I've managed to keep it to just about half an hour. I will put this link in the chat for you. Are there any other questions that you would like to ask me? If you want to unmute yourself, if you want to take your video screen, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you don't want to ask a question in front of everybody else, I have put my links in there. If you want to contact me, take a screenshot of that. And you're more than welcome to come and join the Facebook group that I run, which is called Osteo Survive and Thrive. It's a really nice, small, private group that I keep specifically for newly and recently qualified osteopaths. It's a nice space for you to be able to ask whatever questions you want to ask without feeling like you're getting judged, which sometimes we can do if we're in the big group. Oh, Melissa's just written in there. You've had the same. Yes, I mean, I am you 23 years down the line. There's a lot of situations that I'm sure you've been in that I've experienced. And if you need advice on certain situations or different ways of looking at it, which might be different than your principal or your colleagues, then do please get in touch. So before I stop, are there any questions? Is there anything that anybody would like to ask me? I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. If not, thank you so much for listening to me. I really, really appreciate you being here with me today. And I will send you all the details if you want to come and join me with a little bit more detail. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And bye for now.